we're nearing the finish line of Willis week here on the final cut. Hope you found these reviews at least somewhat interesting and maybe even sought out a couple of these films going, he can't be like that, can they? Well, the majority of the other films that we've seen were done by a different production company than the film that we're talking about today. And we're talking about Deadlock. Brought to us by Saban Films, and this is directed by Jared Cohen, who co-wrote this with Cam Cannon, where we get the story of Mac, played by Patrick Muldoon, who's an ex-Army Ranger who now works at a hydroelectric plant doing repair work. Well, when a group of militia take over the hydroelectric plant, he finds out putting himself and his special set of skills to work as he defends the hydroelectric plant from these bad guys, tries to save hostages that have showed up, and trying to figure out just what the heck's going on. What the heck is going on? That was my question I had for like the first a good chunk of this film. Now, I followed the Mac character, Patrick Muldoon, pretty good, but we get this opening in the beginning that's this kind of chaotic, edited mess, and it's supposed to throw you off, I think, for trying to figure out what exactly did happen during this drug bust. And what set off the Ron Whitlock character, who's played by Bruce Willis. Now, we aren't given a huge amount of introduction or depth to the Ron Whitlock character first off, but I will say there is a surprising moment when Willis first shows up on screen with this character that I didn't expect. He's actually not a cop in this one. I know, it's a surprise. He's not a cop. He's another a bad guy in this one. He's the crazy guy who apparently has a ton of money and hires all these mercenaries to take the hydroelectric plant as he gets to trying to find the truth of what happened at that botched drug bust, because there's a personal connection there. And yeah, it's really hard to tell that motivation in the beginning of this film. It was, and I don't mind that too much. I don't need things, laid out for me that much, but it would still have been nice to have at least a little bit more setup. Now, Patrick Muldoon, major plot armor. Holy balls, does this guy got the plot armor. I mean, these are trained military guys, and there's literally a scene where he rappels down this line along this scaffolding, and there's this guard walking down the stairs, and he drops next to the guard, but there's at least a few seconds where the guard could have just shot him or knocked him off the wire or whatnot, but it's like suddenly he's like stealth, like ninja. It was crazy. And there's some other scenes in here too, to where you're just like, no, there's no way he's coming out of there without a scratch. So, I mean, as much as I liked the Mac character, this guy really had some serious plot armor. And now, Bruce Willis's Ron Whitlock is a crazy guy in here, and this is probably one of the more emotional performances we've seen out of all the films we reviewed so far. One of the most emotional we've seen Bruce Willis out of these movies. Not saying a whole lot, but he is on screen quite a bit, and I liked his crazy character, especially when he actually breaks through and does show some emotion in here. So it's good to see him more on screen, and at least the story eventually gets a little more cohesive and we find out what's going on. But then they play this other angle, like there's supposed to be a little bit of sympathy for these guys. It's really hard to tell, as far as the tone of this film, what they were actually going for, outside of police corruption bad and police do lie. I mean, that message is really hit home in here about halfway through the film. But other than that, it was really kind of hard to tell the tone of where they were going with this. So yeah, there's some interesting action sequences and stunts, but there are a lot of head-scratching moments, especially with our hero, to where you're just like, no, I'm sorry, no. and they're dealing this whole thing with the bridge and flooding a county, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of response of why this flood is happening, and they try to play it off, but you're just like, in today's day and age, really, it's not until like the very last act where things start to really ramp out that felt like that should have happened like a half hour sooner than when it does. So we do have Potter watching here. Adam Hewell Potter showing up again as a character called Skip. So if you're keeping track, yeah, he's been in nearly all of these films. So Deadlock, I can't really recommend either. It fits and spurts, little interesting bits here and there, but as a whole, for an action film, the only interesting character here is the Mac character, and that was barely enough to carry me through the movie. So if you've seen Deadlock with Bruce Willis, not opposed to the other Deadlock film that came out, I think, last year as well, I'd love to hear your constructive thoughts on it. Check out all of our other stuff, bells and whistles, subscribe if you can. I'd love the support. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember, keep that ticket stub